Hey, what's going on? Hey, what's going on, y'all? So I'm checking to see how many people would be interested in a translation communication education app. People always wonder why I don't go out that much, and it's because I'm working on stuff. This app is one of the things that I was working on. I said was because I came to a dead end. I couldn't figure out how to go further. So finally, I've hired a developer to help me with this project. But anyway, let me tell you how this works because I don't want to keep working on it if there's no interest in it. I mean, I probably will because it's something that I want myself because I can't find this in the marketplace. And this is why it's different. I mean, as you can see, I do a lot of walking around, do a lot of mingling, and I like learning about the culture and everything. So it's different times where I want to stop and talk to people, like that guy that was fishing there. I saw him like three times before I decided to say something because I realized, okay, they are very leisurely fishing. It's not active, and they're not monitoring the lines or whatever. So it's not too much of an issue for me to stop and try to use to translate and go back and forth and ask some questions. But ideally, you would just be able to either one, if you're face to face, have the screen open and both people just speak their language and immediately see the translation like you see here. And both people go back and forth and it's all on the screen and it's seamless, instead of having to translate from your language to the other one and keep going back and forth like that, if this makes sense. And I don't know, maybe there's something that exists that I'm not aware of that is as seamless as what I envision. But anyway, this app that I'm creating does that. You just speak your language or type it if you're not face to face. Speak your language. It gives you back your language and the translation. As you see, there's still work to be done because they didn't translate this for some reason. And this is what it actually looked like when I stopped. But in addition to that, and also obviously you can change the language pairs, you know, on each side. But I'm working on. To me, this should be automatic. If I started with English and Spanish, then well, actually, it's not going to. Yeah, that's what I came up with. It's not going to need to go back and forth because both sides are going to be there anyway, going back and forth. So that doesn't really matter. But you'll be able to invite a user in if you're remote by WhatsApp phone number, and then you will come into the screen, and you both can see the screen from wherever you are. If that makes sense. And obviously, there's going to be tiers to it. Now, how much do I tell? You see down here it says chatty suggestions. Did I leave anything off over here? Okay, no. Chatty suggestions. What that is all about is obviously if there's different languages and there's translation, then it means different cultures. So I'm going to have AI monitoring the conversation for the purpose of picking up on certain keywords, certain phrases, and certain ideas that doesn't translate well among cultures. Like like you saw in the video when I was asking about why do they keep saying love and dear and this and that the other? Are they trying to be manipulative? This, that, the other. Well, AI can monitor that. When it picks up on anything that might not happen in one culture as it does in the other, or doesn't mean the same thing in one as it does the other, then it's going to tell you when they said blah, 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 it may not mean what you think it means. In this culture, it means blah, 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 blah. Does that make sense? So it's giving you insight in order that the communication can be more effective. In other words, without you being made aware of that, and the only thing you have is the translation, you may be confused or take it the wrong way or not understand what their meaning behind what they're saying is. And the same is true with what you say. If you say something and it says, well, what you just said, they might have taken it a different way than what you intended. Now you know to go back and clarify yourself. Does that make sense? Now, in addition to that, it's also by monitoring the conversation, it can also tell you ways that you can deepen the conversation. For example, if they're telling you about such like the carnival was this weekend, well, it's kind of like you ever gotten in the car with someone and you've always driven, but all of a sudden they're going to drive you somewhere, take you somewhere, and you keep forgetting to tell them how to get there because you're used to driving all the time. Well, if you think about conversing with someone in another culture, unless it's just something that they do all the time, and they're going to have to also be good in communication and holding conversation, they might have said something about carnival here, but cared not to or didn't think about telling me that it was every Sunday and that the grand finale was at the end of the month, you know. But if they telling me about the carnival Sunday and I'm thinking about rearranging some plans so I can attend, chatty suggestions could say, well, there's not a carnival just this Sunday, it's every Sunday for this month. You might want to ask them about other carnivals, which is the best, or what is it for? What is it a celebration of? Which has got to do with independence. You know, so they might not think about telling you that, but now you can get suggestions on asking about that. Does that make sense? So this is what this app is all about in a nutshell. How many of you would be interested in something like this? And for one-to-one conversation, it would be free. Obviously, it costs money to run something, but I'm thinking right now to be free. I guess I have to see how much it ends up costing. And maybe only a certain amount of messages is going to be free, basically, so you can see how the thing works. But it's going to be tiers, obviously. And like a power user is probably going to be, I don't know how much it's going to be, but in that case, you would be able to converse with more than one person. You will be able to invite more than one to communicate with individually, of course. I mean, you can do multiple people if you wanted to, because you might want to coordinate with some boys, but then you wouldn't need the necessarily translation part. You have other means of doing that. So if it's one-to-one, it's probably going to be fairly cheap. But if you're trying to talk to a whole bunch of women, then obviously you're going to have to pay more. But I'm just wondering what the interest level is in something like this, because probably a lot of you guys also could care less about learning the language, so you wouldn't need something as much as this, or communicating effectively, fine with a word here or there, yeah, let's meet up, blah, blah, blah. So, you know, I understand there's that. But for people who probably want to have more meaningful relationships, then something like this is very useful. And if you're wanting to, you know, learn the culture and talk to people, then something like this could be useful. But that's why I'm like, is there really a demand for this? Is it just me that wants something like this? Or how many people would be interested in something like this? Any feedback?